Operation Artichoke was a Central Intelligence Agency project that researched interrogation methods and arose from Project BLUEBIRD on August 20, 1951, run by the CIA's Office of Scientific Intelligence. A memorandum by Richard Helms to CIA Director Alan Welsh Dulles indicated that Artichoke became Project MKUltra on April 13, 1953. Operation Artichoke was an offensive program of mind control that gathered information together with the intelligence divisions of the U.S. Army, the U.S. Navy, the U.S. Air Force, and the Federal Bureau of Investigation. In addition, the scope of the project was outlined in a memo dated January 1952 that asked, "Can we get control of an individual to the point where he will do our bidding against his will and even against fundamental laws of nature, such as self-preservation?" The operation began in October 1951 at the CIA's secret Camp King near Oberursel, Germany. The operation studied hypnosis, forced morphine addiction, and the use of other chemicals, among other methods, to produce amnesia and other vulnerable states in subjects. At the time, these were considered accepted and cruel interrogation techniques. CIA interrogators sought to manipulate the minds of Russian spies whom the CIA had captured. It was hoped that interrogators could debrief the spies and then be able to erase their memory of what had happened to them. Unfortunately, CIA experimentation with drugs was not limited to foreign spies, it also was used on U.S. Army personnel and American citizens. During Operation Artichoke, a fake brothel in New York City would spike Patron's drinks with LSD. CIA personnel would then observe their subjects' reactions to specific questions. Of course, the experimental subjects were never informed, nor was their consent obtained. The secrecy of Operation Artichoke was broken on December 22 when the New York Times published an article claiming that the CIA had violated its charter and had conducted illegal domestic intelligence operations against anti-war protesters and other dissidents during President Richard Nixon's administration. Early in January 1975, President Gerald Ford established the U.S. Commission on CIA Activities within the United States, also known as the Rockefeller Commission and chaired by Vice President Nelson Rockefeller, to inquire into the charges made by the New York Times. In 5 months, the Commission's report was released and concluded that the CIA had kept within its statutory authority but had undertaken some activities that it should not undertake again. Some of the activities had actually been at the behest of presidents. Some activities were dubious, others were unlawful, and in 1973 and 1974 the CIA had taken action to end such activities. Out of this sensational reporting came the case of Frank Olson, which until then had been secret. The Rockefeller Commission's report embarrassed the CIA when the report told the circumstances surrounding Olson's suicide. The Commission reported that Olson had been administered LSD without his knowledge in 1953 during a test program conducted by the CIA and the U.S. Army. The Olson family was shocked at the Commission's reporting of Frank Olson's death. At the time, they understood, so Olson's son stated in 2001 that their father had fallen to his death and that it had been an accident. In his memoirs, former CIA Director William Colby recalls having been given a 693-page report of possible violations or questionable activities in regard to the CIA's legislative charter. The report is often referred to as the CIA's family jewels. Among the activities in the report were some of the bizarre and tragic cases where the agency experimented with mind control drugs, including one of a CIA officer who, without his knowledge, was given LSD, which caused a deep depression and eventually his death. Frank Olson's son was never satisfied with the account of his father's death. During the 1990s, Olson's son investigated his father's death and consequently exposed the existence of Operation Artichoke. In the aftermath of this exposure, a report that was produced came to the conclusion that Frank Olson had died to protect the secrecy of Operation Artichoke.